It gives me terrific pleasure to introduce to you M.T. Kelly. M.T. has been lying low for several years, but we had a little conversation late last year, and by gum, out he came with the reprinting of his Governor General award-winning novel and this new book of poems that contains a memoir. And he's going to read from those poems tonight. And so it gives me a terrific pleasure to introduce you to my old friend and the great writer, M.T. Kelly.
The Bone Pit, the Bone Pit. These Indians lovingly reinterred the bones of their loved ones, buried them so that Brebeuf could watch, and the site is 250 yards behind the sign. To reach the place, I ski into a blood-red sun through a dark forest. I'm on water, I'm on ice, only to reach an ordinary clearing and fear a barking dog. The field is dull, wire nailed to boards, a cattle chute. Yet here, for the first time in Canada, the past exists. Here in the commonplace, by a curve of dead cedar. A rabbit crosses my vision. Obsessed, head tilted as if concentrating, the creature mocks me. I hear no voices from the feasts of the dead, feel only my feet, the cold. It's a kind of miracle, the color of bones, globes on a femur, wood and bone. What pierces me now will always ache, and I turn to flee into the present, into the known world. The pain will pass, the countryside changes. But there is such a thing as haunting. Here something happened. Here was something else. Death occurs. Now, we didn't just have a conversation. This book is Barry's idea. I don't think there's another book like it, which is poetry, a memoir, and then a short story reflecting the people written about in the memoir. So I'm going to read the end of the short story, which is called All That Wild Wounding. Two people who'd been lovers in high school meet again at a reunion, and this is how the story ends. He killed it all, even when he knew that Pat had given him an inestimable gift. David sensed how wrong things were when men sneered at what they wanted most, and how different it had been the first time with Pat. It didn't affect how he would end up acting. The very cupola where he had felt urged to stop existing didn't matter. He'd actually forgotten he'd ever been in it when he walked past it with Pat and held her. The leaden sky spread out behind them, wide as all the world. His hysterical cruelty had not even been slowed. All that remained was the ability to mythologize. You know, the first job I ever had up north, I drove from Dryden to Monaco to see where you live, he said. The road wasn't paved back then. I went back again just last year and I asked about you. Same old David. I asked about your family. Are you native? I mean, like Sandy? Well, it'd be news to my mother. This guy at the store told me. Does it matter? She looked up at him, challenged him. No, he said. Come with me. And he followed her off the dark dance floor and into the bright lights of the lobby. As he squirmed, she turned to face him again. You know, she said, I don't regret relationships. He looked at her and saw clearly what had happened. Sentimentality faded. They couldn't have stayed together. But with Pat, he touched a force that seemed to spread through other lives like a tree. It also died. But with her for a moment, everything had been alive. Wind rattled the black glass high above. There was his damaged life, his terrible regret. There was affection and love abiding. And I'd like to conclude my reading with a poem called Downriver. The man is turning, smiling at you from the bow of a canoe going downriver. He is not smiling as he has too often, too many times in his life, telling too much, telling everything. What you see is special because it's simply what a smile can be. And special because this day of such beauty is the end, forever lost to him. The snow in spring, the feeling of being out all day in such weather, being alone on cross-country skis and not being afraid of the wet bark, the wet everywhere breath. So he turns and looks back at you and smiles in a canoe, alone now, but sharing all that was once out there beyond the gunnels, the lovely silences, the word Iroquois, his interest in so much, what he loved, yes, loved. The man who has become all fear is smiling now, like never before, saying goodbye. He is sailing into something like death. Oh, say it. Downriver, never to see the wet spring again, to be out all day in weather like this. Thank you.